complicating their on-air analyst roles for the Fox News channel. Both Mr. Rove and Mr. Morris were not just operating as observers on the election or commentators on the election. They were both active participants in this election. Both men had their own super PACs invested in the outcome of the election. Media Matters took a look at the FEC filings for Mr. Morris's super PAC, which were released last week, and they found something strange. Here, check out Dick Morris's website again. If you get past the gun control nonsense, if you click through to dickmorris.com/advertising and information, you can see there that if you would like to send emails to the rarefied strata of America who are people who believe things that Dick Morris says, you can pay to newsmax.com between $10 and $35 for each 1,000 names to get access to and use the Dick Morris email distribution list. It's got about 500,000 people on the list. The minimum order, they say, is the full list, which means it's wicked expensive to email Dick Morris fans with whatever it is you want to email them about. But if you look at the FEC filings for Dick Morris's super PAC that he was operating during this past election, his two largest expenditures in the weeks leading up to the election were a credit card processing company that was handling the logistics of people who wanted to give him money, and also Newsmax.com, where you can rent Dick Morris's email list. And that's where he spent his money marked as fundraising. So based on those reports to the FEC in terms of what Dick Morris was spending his money on that he was getting from people he was sending these email blasts to, the folks at Media Matters surmised that, quote, a significant portion of the super PAC's money likely went to renting Dick Morris's own email list, which is operated by Newsmax Media. So your money, in other words, goes to Dick Morris, who apparently then pays it to Newsmax to send emails, and then Newsmax maybe just pays it back to Dick Morris to pay for the email addresses to which they just sent all of his emails. Nice work if you can get it, right? What these financial reports seem to indicate is that donations to Dick Morris's super PAC substantially end up just going to Dick Morris, which he presumably uses to send more emails to get more money, which goes to Dick Morris. This is based on Media Matters' review of these FEC reports from the end of the past election. And this super PAC of his has been around for a couple of years. And maybe it doesn't always work like this. Maybe it's not always a scam. But this scammy-looking arrangement for the period right before the presidential election is coming to light right on the heels of a high-profile, eyebrow-raising, sudden, and unexpected resignation at another conservative fundraising juggernaut, FreedomWorks. The Dick Army resignation from FreedomWorks seemed weird from the start, right, when David Corn and Andy Kroll at Mother Jones first broke the story a week ago. I mean, first of all, there was Dick Army's weird resignation letter that got leaked, demanding that his name and likeness not be used in any FreedomWorks materials. Subsequent to that came the news that Mr. Army had arranged for an $8 million golden parachute for himself, provided by an influential Republican fundraiser, which did not seem very grassrootsy at all for a supposedly grassroots group. He gets $8 million once he leaves. Subsequent to that emerged the details, or at least the allegation, of the relatively scammy reason that Mr. Army left the group. Politico.com reporting that the other recognizable guy at FreedomWorks besides Dick Army, a guy named Matt Kibbe, had allegedly used FreedomWorks staff and resources to write his book, even though all the profits from the sale of the book were just going to him, going to Matt Kibbe. And so if you think about it, that means that anybody who was donating to FreedomWorks for their political organizing work or whatever, anybody donating to FreedomWorks was effectively paying for the staff time and the resources to produce a project that just personally profited one of the people who works there. A scam. It's like the Newt Gingrich direct mail scam, right? Where Newt Gingrich would give businesses fake awards, where what you won was the opportunity to give $5,000 to Newt Gingrich to meet him. Also, you would get a souvenir gavel. Congratulations to you. Where is your check for me? It's also like that scammy campaign where Mike Huckabee was appearing in the Repeal Obamacare Now ads. Repeal it now. You go to their website, and what do you see? It's now or never, and a giant button at the bottom of the screen that you can click to help fund the battle. And what do they want you to do in terms of helping to fund the battle? Well, they would prefer that you donate $2,500 to join the Chairman's Circle, which is also, I'm not making this up, called the Huckabee Special. And that will, in their own words, help keep Mike Huckabee on TV to repeal Obamacare. Will having Mike Huckabee on TV repeal Obamacare? I'm checking with the Constitution, but I don't think so. But Mike Huckabee would please like to stay on TV, if for no other reason than to keep asking for more of your money to help him stay on TV, asking for more money. It is maybe inevitable that somebody's going to try to turn impotent political rage and ignorance into personal financial gain. It has been happening as long as there has been snake oil and hucksters, which is not the root word of Mr. Huckabee's name. I did check that. But in the case of Mr. Huckabee, right, this isn't just some con man off the street. I mean, Mike Huckabee, for whatever you think of him now, he came in second the last time the Republicans nominated somebody for president. In the 2008 election, Mike Huckabee essentially came in second to John McCain, which is now the part where I tell you that the guy who came in second this year, the guy who came in second to Mitt Romney, where does he work now? He works at WorldNet Daily, which is admittedly hilarious because WorldNet Daily is a Mad Libs, choose-your-own-adventure, free association, blank verse Obama conspiracy theory generator. Just plug in Muslim, gay, murder, Kenya, communist, and Michelle and see what comes out. But in addition to being inadvertently hilarious, WorldNet Daily is now home to the runner-up from this last year's Republican presidential nominating contest. And WorldNet Daily is also a scam. Rick Perlstein wrote a great piece that came out just before the election in The Baffler about how WorldNet Daily and Dick Morris's pals at Newsmax are essentially just operating systems designed to feed the contact information for gullible and overexcited conservatives to people who can be parted, who can part them with their money. Right? And if you are a person who has long been struck by and fascinated by how similar the conservative be afraid direct mail that asks for money looks to the kind of direct mail that tries to scam your grandmother out of her savings. Remember Fred Thompson and the reverse mortgage thing? Yeah. It is amazing to see, if you have been watching this over time, one of the amazing things about it is how persistent it is. It just doesn't go away. No matter what's going on in the election cycle, it doesn't go away. If you have any sort of conservative name for yourself, the odds are pretty good you're going to end up in some sort of scam designed to part gullible conservatives from their wallets. What might be new, though, is that after this last election, at least some folks on the right appear to finally be seeing this as a problem for the American right. Conservative Bill Kristol, writing for the upcoming issue of the Weekly Standard, says, quote, "The conservative movement is in deep disarray. Reading about some conservative organizations and Republican campaigns these days, one is reminded of Eric Hoffer's remark, every great cause begins as a movement, becomes a business, and eventually degenerates into a racket." It may be that major parts of American conservatism have become such a racket that a kind of refounding of the movement as a cause is necessary.